sign language interpreter for the night is William Saylor. Good evening, welcome to the program. This is Man Night News. I'm James Smart. Well, tomorrow will be a defining moment for the Supreme Court as a 5-judge bench rules whether the court can hear a retirement age dispute facing Deputy Chief Justice Kalpana Rawal and suspended Supreme Court Judge Philip Tunoi. And as KTN's Murimi Mwangina reports, the ruling comes on the backdrop of alleged vested interests among some of the judges sitting on the bench.
The Supreme Court, it appears, will be balancing between justice and alleged deep vested personal interests when the 5-judge bench rules whether the court should proceed to hear a retirement age dispute involving 70-year-old Deputy Chief Justice Kalpana Rawal, suspended Supreme Court Judge Philip Tunoi, aged 72, against their employer, the Judicial Service Commission. JSC wants all judges to retire at 70. Activist Okia Omutata wants the judges to disqualify the Supreme Court from hearing the dispute, arguing that Justices Njoki Ndongo and Jack Ojwang have already expressed bias in favor of their two fellow judges. Rawal and Tunoi, on the other hand, insist that Chief Justice Willy Mutunga and Justice Mokin Wanjala, who sit in the JSC, are likely to be prejudiced against them.
If the court was to hold that indeed, as a result of the bias or likely bias of some of the judges, the final decision on this question will lie with the decision by the Court of Appeal.
It's a test for Justice Mutunga. This is his last bench, the last ruling he's going to make as the President of the Supreme Court. And therefore the country is going to look at his legacy, where you have to determine something that affects you as a person.
But the 5-judge bench will also be making a determination whether the Chief Justice acted within his administrative authority by fast-tracking the hearing date to the 2nd of June from the initial June 24th, as had been set by Justice Njoki. Rawal and Tunoi want the hearing date to revert back to June the 24th, which will be 8 days after Mutunga's retirement. In such a case, the top court will be staring at a quorum crisis, as only 4 judges will be left to hear the dispute. To be properly constituted, the Supreme Court must have at least 5 judges on the bench.
There is no way the doctrine of necessity would allow a situation where a judge will sit on their own case.
It's an issue that should have been dealt with, first of all, internally, before it spills out into the public in the manner that it has now.
It's important for them to determine this matter right now in a manner that essentially is going to make us go forward.
Now, walking a tightrope between justice and alleged vested interests, the judge's verdict on the retirement age stalemate will not only influence the legacy of the Supreme Court, but also that of Chief Justice Willy Mutunga, who retires in less than a week. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Well, and to that top story of the day tonight, controversial Gatundu South Member of Parliament, Moses Kuria, has presented himself to the police in connection with alleged hate speech he made yesterday in Nairobi. 5 other MPs from both Jubilee and Code Coalition have been summoned to appear before the police over the inflammatory remarks they are alleged to have made. Those who wanted by police are Kilifi Women Rep Aisha Juma, Suna East MP Janet Mohammed, Bahati MP Kimani Unjiri, as well as Kabet Member of Parliament Ferdinand Waititu. Timothy has that report.
Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria at it again. This time, he was alleged to have made remarks bordering on hate speech targeted towards CORD leader Raila Odinga during an event at the Kasarani Indoor Stadium on Sunday.
What we want to see is speedy investigations, all the evidence brought together, and the men and women who make these statements to really face the full force of the law so that they know that actions, what they say, is punishable. They shouldn't actually think that they can say this and buy their way out of responsibility just because of their standing in society.
Kuria, who has since honored the police summons, has however dismissed the NCIC summons.
Nikagojea Raila aitwe na Kaparo aulizwe mambo ya kusema Mjaluo sababu ni polisi asifanye hiyo kazi. Kaparo hakumuita.
But the Gatundu South Member of Parliament is not the only one seemingly in trouble. His Bahati constituency counterpart Kimani Ngunjiri has also received a summon from the police over remarks he made this weekend when angry youth disrupted a gathering convened by CORD leader Raila Odinga. Remarks that the MP has since disowned.
Nimesikia nimekuwa summoned. Sijui na Kaparo. Kaparo wajua mimi ni mjumbe nimechaguliwa na watu. Mimi si mtu ya kuitwa kwa media. Lazima aandikie mimi barua aniambie. Official aniambie tunakuita uandike statement kwa sababu ya matamshi haya na haya na haya.
Ngunjiri was captured on video allegedly inciting eviction of CORD supporters in Nakuru. Ferdinand Waititu, on the other hand, has been called upon to answer to claims over insightful remarks he made while in Kasarani this weekend. Remarks that seemingly have now become a forte for political onslaught between the Jubilee and CORD coalitions. And today, CORD reacted angrily to remarks attributed to the three MPs.
Mr. President, we want you to ensure Moses Kuria, Kinuthia Mbugwa, Minor Commander, and Ferdinand Waititu are arrested and charged. We should not apply the Constitution and the laws of the land selectively.
Members of Parliament were seen throwing stones in Nakuru. Members of Parliament were seen very clearly in Kasarani inciting people. Now, what are they investigating? Instead of arresting those members and taking them to court.
But some of the remarks they made today have thrown some of the leaders into trouble with the law. Legislators Timothy Bosire, Aisha Jumwa and Junet Mohammed have also been summoned by the police to be grilled over their statements today. The legislators set to appear before the police and the National Cohesion and Integration Commission will have to explain their remarks not only to the commissioners and the police force, but also to the over 42 million Kenyans who are still shaking off a bitter past of violence emanating from reckless leaders. Timothy Otieno, KTN News.
And meanwhile, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission is alarmed over rampant hate speech propagated by politicians. The chairman of the commission, Francis Ole Kaparo, says they are currently investigating 9 politicians who are on their radar over alleged hate speech that border on incitement.
We have summoned the MP for Bahati in Nakuru to appear before this commission in the course of this week. I believe it will be Thursday or Friday. And so have we also again summoned Mr. Kuria to appear again before this commission. And in the case of Mr. Kuria, we will make an attempt yet again to ask the court to cancel the bond. We have done that in the past. Unfortunately, on all occasions we have made an application to the court to cancel the bail of this particular accused. The courts have always refused to listen to us. One wonders whether the courts will wake up to reality when the whole country is burning.
All right, and that leads us to the big question that we want to ask you tonight on Twitter. We're asking you, should the Ole Kaparo's commission be disbanded for failure to tackle and prosecute hate mongers? My studio, I'm joined by Professor Joseph Naituli, who's a commissioner at NCIC. Karibu sana to the program.
Thank you.
Haven't you guys failed? We have hate mongers. They are continuing to propagate hate, and it's in existence. Why?
We have not failed. We have been doing our job actually fairly well. In fact, better than the people imagine. For the first time, we have been able, for the last 2 years, maintain serious peace in conflict areas, Turkana, Pokot, in Tana River. What is creating problem for us is the politicians, when they spew hate speech, when they separate us, we investigate, we arrest them, we hand them over to the Directorate of Public Prosecution, then they go to court, then unfortunately they get bail, and then they go back again to hate speech, then Professor, they go...
Let me ask a question. we have the incident that was sparked this Sunday. Remember, starting from, I think, when the commission came into force, this new commission that you're in, you came into force and said you're going to have recorders in every political rally or every political event.
Yes.
All right? Yeah. On Sunday, were your commission and were you represented in Kasarani, where these alleged hate remarks that are sparked of this new round of hate started?
I actually doubt that we are presented there, but we have received all the videos. And that's the investigation has commenced on this second round of that incitement. But I think the point really which is we need to make it so strongly also is there is indirect incitement to violence and there is hate speech that touches on the communities, which is ours, although we are reviewing the act in order to incorporate all that to ourselves. So, but you see, even if the commission was not represented there, I assume there is police in that meeting. And to me, nations fail when independent institutions which are charged with the mandate of executing a very specific mandate, when they fail to do that, that is when nations collapse. And what I see here is when people say, spew hate speech in so obvious in public gatherings, those people should be arrested by the police before they leave that meeting. Because that way, we are able to have a sober country, that way you can all live in peace.
Professor, there is one gentleman, the MP for Gatundu South, very notorious on hate speech, not only on Facebook, but in public comments. What is the commission doing?
We have taken the MP for Gatundu South to court several times. We have asked the court to cancel the bail, I think not once. We are going to do it again, because the bail is given on the condition that you maintain good behavior.
But he hasn't.
He has not maintained good. It's obvious that he hasn't maintained good behavior, because to say what he said yesterday is terrible in my opinion, because the country has enemies. We are fighting in Somalia or Shabab. What if Al-Shabaab takes the opportunity? What happens now to our country? You see, leaders need to be responsible. They need to know what they are saying can have consequences. And our leaders, unfortunately, don't seem to understand that. And, you know, our laws are very clear on this. And what we need is the courts to ruthlessly enforce these laws, especially laws concerning our security, the security of the state. We apparently don't see that happening, and we are also disappointed.
So that's a frustration for you. The said MP has said that he will not appear before your commission. He's chosen to appear before the CID. The Bahati MP has said he's also not going to appear until it is written down, you know, because he's an elected member of parliament. No one takes you serious.
Well, the reason why I believe that they don't seem to take us serious is because they seem to have a way, once they arrive in court, to get this bail, and then to go out, do exactly the same thing, and then again get bail. We are asking the court to please save the country.
What about political will, Professor? What about the political will from the coalition that they come from?
You know, you ask a very good question, because I have to honestly tell you that we have probably spent the last 50 years of this country's existence building the country as opposed to building the nation. Because building the nation requires very serious commitment of knitting us together as a people. And that also requires investment in resources. Unfortunately, for the last 50 years, we don't seem to have done that. And the symptoms now is what our politicians are doing in anticipation for either maintaining power or regaining it, or regaining power, which is very unfortunate, because we need to put this country first. This country won't be here long after we are all gone, long after these governments are gone. So it needs to come first in anybody who wants to be a leader, or who is already a leader in the republic.
I must ask you this, Commissioner, because every time this happens, every Kenyan will go out and they would cry and would comment and say this is very wrong. You people who are in authority, you also do the same. You appear to absolutely be, you know, have no way to deal with this.
No, ourselves, we are not doing that. We're insisting that these people will come to us. If you don't come to us, we will go to court. So the court will order them to appear in court. And if they don't appear in court, then the court has to enforce its authority. They can ignore us, but they will not be able to ignore the court. So we don't, this agency, this time around, is not going to allow what happened in 2005 to produce the mother of Wombatos in 2007. It's not going to happen now. We intend to execute our mandate faithfully, faithful to the country, without fear and without favor. So we are going after the hate mongers, wherever they are, furiously. And we're just hoping that the court will be with that. But we are not going to allow this ourselves to continue. We are not ignoring any of these people.
30 seconds or less, Professor. We're going 14 months or 30 months to the elections.
Yes.
As political temperatures are rising, do you honestly believe in your hearts of hearts, in your minds of minds, that your commission and yourselves can actually handle the hate crimes and the hate mongers and the incitement in this country? Do you honestly believe?
We actually believe we can handle it. We believe we have the capacity to handle it. And we believe that the law enforcement agencies as our are capable of doing that. What they need to do is most of them take their mandate very seriously. Taking the mandate seriously means protecting this country from the few who want to collapse us, refusing to be redirected in the wrong direction by the few, and insisting on serious and proper law enforcement.
All right.
We intend to do that.
Professor Naituli, wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Hope you finally arrest the hate mongers.
All
right. Talking there to Professor Naituli from the NCIC, the Commission, checking matters, hate mongers and hate preachers. We'll be right back. This is Monday News. Don't go too far because we have plenty more on the other side of the break. All right, welcome back to Monday News. Now, a man is being held by police in Nakuru for allegedly posing as a nurse at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital. According to the police, the man, identified as George Mboro, has been extorting unsuspecting patients who seek help with filing P3 forms. Victor Ogale has that report.
It was the proverbial 40th day of a thief when George Mburu turned up for his daily routine of allegedly extorting unsuspecting patients at the Nakuru Level 5 hospital. Mburu, according to the hospital administration, has allegedly been demanding money to help patients who are asking P3 forms at the hospital.
So today, accidentally, when I was doing my just major Mondays rounds, I found this guy attending patients. And when now I looked at him, he did not look familiar. So inquiring that, who are you? He said, I'm a BSN nurse. What is a BSN nurse doing with a stethoscope and treating patients? Here the policy is that you are treated either by a clinical officer or a doctor. The nurses gives you what the instruction that the clinical officer or the doctor has given. So he said, no, I was just volunteering. So further interrogation, that is now when he said, no, I'm not even a doctor. I'm now a community health worker.
Having received several complaints from patients, the hospital administration and its security team laid an ambush and nabbed him as he tried to con yet another patient.
That we have had a problem with police. So many P3s are being filled in this hospital, but they are not being presented in court because when they come for verification and for the doctor to go and testify, we don't get that doctor because they don't exist.
According to the health officials in Nakuru County, such cases have become on the increase in the past 1 year, with the Nakuru Level 5 hospital as the main target for the rogue doctors. The police say the suspect does not have any medical training to back his credentials. Mburu is now expected to be arraigned in court Tuesday morning, but for today, he will be the state guest at the local police cells, awaiting charges of extortion and impersonification. Victor Gale, KTN News, Nakuru County.
All right, and we're asking you, remember, on Twitter, what if you think the Olekaparo NCIC Commission should be disbanded. Twitters at KTN News, at James Smart, and I'll be looking at your comments when we come back. Should we disband Olekaparo's commission for failing to deal with hate mongers? That's the question we're asking tonight. Don't go too far because when we come back, we have that Mutunga's last ruling and the woman who met the Chief Justice yesterday. Don't go too far. All right, welcome back. Now, Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero has today appeared before the Tunoi Tribunal and dismissed claims that he bribed Supreme Court Judge Justice Philip Tunoi. Kidero told the tribunal that he does not personally know the judge, as well as his accuser Geoffrey Kiplagat, who claims he gave out 200 million shillings bribe to the judge. And as Akisa Wandera now reports, today's session could help shape the case that threatens the lifelong career of Justice Tunoi.
County Governor Evans Kidero appeared before the Sharad Rao-led tribunal to testify over claims that he offered Justice Tunoi a 200 million shilling bribe in order to influence a case challenging his election as Nairobi governor. In his testimony, Kidero was categorical that he has never met the judge.
Never met Judge Tunoi.
I've never met Judge Tunoi in person. I've never even shaken his hand.
You've never met him, you've never shaken his hand. Of course, you know he was one of the 7 judges who heard your appeal.
I've only seen him on television, and probably the closest I've come to him is today, because when they listened at the Supreme Court, we sat much back further.
Okay. But you know your matter was heard by 7 judges of the Supreme Court.
Yes.
The Nairobi governor was also firm that he never gave out the bribe as alleged by Geoffrey Kiplagat.
Do you know whether Mr. Kiplagat was ever used that entrance?
I don't know, because I don't know whether he ever came to City Hall.
Very well. Did you ever authorize him to use that entrance?
I don't know him, so how would I have authorized?
Later, Kiprop Chirchir, the man said to be the driver of the car Governor Kidero was in when the bribe allegedly exchanged hands, also appeared before the tribunal and denied the allegations. He produced a selfie taken on the said date to prove that he was not at the scene when the alleged bribe was given.
Also could confirm that at around 8:34, having taken dinner and waiting for news, as we all in this country do, I had taken what we call a selfie, which, if you know, on the iPhone, it records the time that you took and the date. And I have it here for you to check.
Earlier, an expert from telecommunications company Safaricom was brought to interpret data on phone calls and short text messages between the players mentioned in the affidavit. A CID officer who analyzed the phone data of 2 players mentioned in the case told the tribunal that those mentioned were not in the same venue as stated in the sworn affidavit by Kiplagat.
On 4th November 2014, both of Mr. Kiplagat's mobile number were active different areas at the same time.
Yeah, but are you able to tell us which areas?
The second
Where were they?
The second page.
We know that they are in different areas. But what areas?
The first number for Mr. Kiplagat was within Nairobi West area at 9:06:54 a.m.
Following the developments, Tunoi's lawyer Fred Ngatia made an appeal for the termination of the probe, saying the integrity and career of his client was hanging in the balance. The ruling on the application will be made tomorrow after 2 more witnesses take the stand. Kisa Wandera, KTN News.
Now, yesterday, young Zaitul Mohammed captivated an audience in Korogosho, Nairobi during a live interview with Chief Justice Dr. Weli Mutunga. Young Zaitul could not control her emotions over the plight of her younger sister, who is suffering from a gunshot wound on her neck, and her efforts to receive justice have not borne fruits. The man behind her sister's woes is allegedly taking advantage of her as she is unable to get a lawyer. Stanley Bichu traced her and filed the following report.
Tukienda kotini tunaambiwa kila Friday tunaambiwa kujeni next Friday mpaka imekuwa mwaka 4 saa hii.
Tears came out freely and naturally. This is after 26-year-old Zaitun Muhammad Ali finally caught up with Kenya's top judge in Nairobi's Korogosho slums.
Sisi yangu amekosa life. Si kiwete, si kiziwi, yani si maiti, yani ni mtu tu analala tu kwa hiyo.
She seized the moment to complain about what she termed as delayed justice. And she did this for her 22-year-old sister, Ifra Isaac, who she said has been lying helpless at home with a bullet logged in her neck. Her case is yet to conclude 4 years down the line. When we arrived at her home, we found Ifra in bed who, due to her condition, could not narrate her story to us, one about the ordeal she went through in broad daylight on the 15th of April 2012.
Hapa ni barabara, yeye anasimama mbele yangu na mimi nasimama junction na yeye yuko mbele yangu hivi. Sasa akaona msichana kijana vile kimbisha hivi anataka kunyang'anya simu. Vile anataka kunyang'anya simu, msichana akaanza kurusha. Vile akarusha, kijana amejitoa hiki kitu hiyo bunduki yake, akaanza kushuta hapa, msichana akaanguka. Kijana anaanza kukimbia pande yangu na mimi akaanza kukimbia. Mimi na kijana wangu mdogo hata karibu nilimaliza sisi hapo. Ndio watu wanaokuwa wanashika na kijana yeye ndio akaenda hivi akaponyoka.
Yani Mwenyezi Mungu bado siku zake haijafika, yani mpaka saa hii yani analala kwa kitanda ni huyu dada yangu tu peke yake.
Following our news on Zaitun's encounter with the Chief Justice yesterday, a call came through this morning from the office of the Governor, Nairobi County. At Mama Lucy Hospital, Ifra and her family meet Dr. Musa, courtesy of the county government intervention.
What caused the hydrocephalus? We've examined her with my fellow colleague, Dr. Kaiza, and we are of the opinion that she has got some problem within the cranial cavity, just within the brain. And we are thinking it could be some collection of water, what we call is hydrocephalus. And she's also got some problem with the hip joint, which we think it's some osteoarthritic process. We are feeling that currently she's not speaking. She's got paralysis and weakness of the left side of the body, both the upper and the lower limbs. And we believe we are going to do consultation with neurosurgeons at KTN National Hospital. We believe something can be done on that, what's happening on the brain.
And later this evening, the Chief Justice informed KTN News he will cater for Ifra's transport expenses to the hospital for as long as it takes. As I leave Ifra Isaac in the hands of Dr. Musa and a team of neurosurgeons here at Mama Lucy Hospital, the family members bank hope that she will walk away from the pain that has plagued her for the last 5 years. Stanley Mbichu, KTN News at the Mama Lucy Hospital, Nairobi.
All right, now new car dealers have warned of traders in various commodities could not start selling their goods through the Nairobi Security Exchange after plans to go live enter the final stretch. Now the new platform will benefit farmers as it will allow to sell all manner of commodities listed and classified by the authority. Kenya has in the past shown interest in setting up commodities exchange with little success. Ethiopia is among the pioneers after it set up its now famous Ethiopian Commodity Exchange in 2008. Agriculture is not only the largest contributor to GDP in Africa, but the sector is also the largest employer on the continent. Opening up conversations in this arena will therefore lead to greater opportunities for local business and economic growth, noting that a well-organized pricing information, improved profits, better productivity, and reduced market segmentation, and boosted export quality. Well, joining us now is Tat Ponda, Vice President for Emerging Markets at International FC Limited, to help us break down what that means.
And we are looking at African markets and seeing the need to develop structured trading. So we see an opportunity to bring our expertise, share our knowledge and experience, and help in the process of developing structured markets here in Kenya, in the East African region, and in other centres where we've been delivering.
All right, welcome back. This is KTN News. Now, for those who are watching us on KTN Home, this is where we say goodbye. But for this on KTN News, we continue with the business news. All right, and the new car dealers have warned of a tough year ahead due to an influx of second-hand cars after the government lifted the set excise duty on vehicle imports that required importers to pay an extra 200,000 shillings. The move, could, according to CMC Motors Chief Executive Mark Cass, will see sales dip as consumers will shy away from buying brand new showroom cars.
And a lot of surprises came in from CS Henry Rotich. Perhaps, I don't know what stood out for you.
Well, I think the change in duty possibly back is one that really stands out for us. We thought the new car market had some relief, a bit of a breather really, where we could bring people onto the new car ladder.
Yeah.
But without reading the full bill, and I think it won't be published and probably effective to September, it doesn't look positive. It looks as though used car imports are being favoured again over new vehicles. So it is a concern for the industry.
How is this likely to impact car dealers really?
Well, I think it's significant, Abby, because we were thinking of CKD out of Thika, that we have a share with the Kenyan government. This is obviously going to set us back. And what worries me more is the small car market. In other words, the people that are coming onto the ladder, the entry point, and where does it stand for them now? And it is a concern.
All right, and now low prioritization of marginalized communities in Kenya is the reason northeastern Kenya records the poorest economic development countrywide. To deal with this, the World Bank has set aside 11 trillion shillings over 5 years to speed up economic developments in northeastern Kenya. The 5-year project is to develop solar energy networks, improve water supply, and upgrade roads to improve the investment attractiveness in the region, and in the long term, boost local business. KTN's Joy Durinbira has that report.
Good roads, they say, speed up economic development in any part of the world. But a drive through parts of northeastern Kenya gives any passenger and motorist the feel of the poor state of roads and eventually explains the reason the entire region is left out economically. Take Lodwar in Turkana County, for instance. A 68-kilometer drive through this road would take you over 3 hours to drive through. The same would apply to residents of Mandera who have opted to use donkeys to ferry goods from one destination to the other. It is on the back of this that the World Bank has committed 11 trillion Kenya shillings for the upgrading of roads and boosting of businesses in 10 counties across northeastern Kenya.
As they told us, we need clean water, more water and clean water. We need energy because a lot of our cities are not connected to the grid. We are running diesel or other type of thing. We want livelihood for our people, means more agriculture and more livestock, and more importantly, we want to be connected to the rest of Kenya.
Among the counties to benefit from the World Bank 5-year fund are Garissa, Isiolo, Mandera, Lamu, Wajir, Marsabit, Tana River, Turkana, Samburu, and West Pokot. Part of the $1.1 billion is set to boost farmers and pastoralists' activities to the tune of $200 million, $150 million channeled to off-grid solar energy networks, while water and sanitation in urban rural areas will receive $300 million. $500 million will collectively go to the upgrading of roads. These 3 projects will be completed by 2017, while the Isiolo-Mandera Road, which will cost $500 million US, will be complete by 2018. Joy Durinbira, KTN News.
Well, and vetting of human resources professionals has begun to ensure only qualified practitioners are allowed to practice. The Institute of Human Resource Management, the regulator of the HR industry in Kenya, says there is an ongoing move to register and certify all human resource professionals by end of this year. The new HRM Council has called on all HR professionals in the country, including consultants, to reapply for Institute of Human Resource Management membership, after which they will be vetted before being issued with practicing certificates.
To here and now communicate that anybody who is practicing without having duly qualified HR professionals is doing it illegally. And once the compliance team reaches out, there will be sanctions that will be done to those who are practicing HR and do not have the qualification. But as I said earlier, I want to give an appeal again to all those that are interested in working in the area of HR to approach the institute. And we are here and ready to support and give the training and the qualifications that they need so that they are able to be prepared to undertake the function of HR.
Well, in Plum Holdings, a company associated with Chairman Peter Munga, intends to acquire a 23.3% stake in listed company. The stake is part of shares that are being disposed of by the government of Mauritius for the sum of 6.3 billion shillings. The Mauritian government is selling the stake it seized from disgraced tycoon Dawood Rawat last year, April, after accusing him of running a Ponzi scheme. On completion of the proposed acquisition, Plum Holdings, together with associated persons and related companies, will control 38.54% of the total issued ordinary shares of Britam. The transaction is expected to be completed by end of next month. Tanzania's aviation regulator, the Tanzanian Civil Aviation Authority, TCAA, has announced plans to review airfares later this year to provide relief to travelers following the government's decision to scrap premium tax on aviation insurance. According to the Finance and Planning Minister, Philip Mpango, the proposed VAT exemption on aviation insurance charges in the National Assembly was a measure to support the hatchling aviation industry. The measure takes into consideration on that aviation industry in Tanzania is still at infant stage and needs to be supported in order to become regionally competitive. The minister insists that there was need to promote the aviation industry and subsequently the tourism industry. He noted that the measure will allow operators to acquire insurance covers from within the country instead of offshore market, and thus maybe retain more of the revenue generated locally. All right, and to some sports news now. And despite the assurance by the 2017 World Youth Championship Secretariat that Kenya will host a successful World Athletics Under-18 Championships, the local organizing chair, Mwangi Muthee, is non-committal on when most of the facilities will be ready. Mwangi Muthee was speaking during a visit by the IAAF Head of Operations, Carlo De Angeli, at the Kasarani Stadium.
The International Association of Athletics Federations, IAAF, Head of Operations, Carlo De Angeli, who is in the country, toured the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, which is the event's venue, and although he was impressed by the facility in general, there's still work to be done, including the laying of a new tartan track.
The state of the track is not ideal. It's an old track, it's not a top-of-the-range track, it's quite run down, especially the warm-up area. And we have been told that there are plans on behalf of the local organizing committee to renovate the track.
The local organizing committee chair, Mwangi Muthee, acknowledged the need for facelift but remained non-committal on if and when the facility will be fully ready.
So by the end of the week, we'll be tendering for most of the civil works and technical equipment that will be needed for the championship.
The visiting IAAF Head of Operations was, however, pleased that the Secretariat is up and running as per expectations. Carlo will, during his visit, familiarize himself with the measures being put in place to ensure the event runs smoothly.
Security today is an issue everywhere, not just in Nairobi, not just in Kenya. So it was very comforting for us to understand the awareness of the Security Directorate. I've been told that it's not easy to move around Nairobi, as it is not in any other major city, and I'm happy to hear that arrangements are being made for the transport to be as smooth as possible.
And the test now is on us as the local organizing committee. We deliver the event in flying colors.
After weeks of silence and the ongoings at the 2017 World Youth Secretariat, today's briefing means that things are taking shape for the event that will be held right here at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, next year. Lynn Washira, KTN News.
All right, and youngsters from Shama Rugby Academy and Peponi House School got a chance to learn rugby from Aviva Premiership and Championship League winners, Saracens. The Saracens were in the country on a 5-day tour where they took the Premiership trophy to Mount Kenya to raise funds for elephant conservation.
Premiership 5 Saracen players traveled to Kenya to climb Mount Kenya in an effort to raise awareness for elephant conservation under the umbrella Giants for Giants. The Saracens held an exhibition match at Peponi School in Nairobi that saw a number of renowned rugby players from top clubs in the country take part.
Raise awareness and raise money ultimately for Space for Giants, and off the back of that we've just had an easy feat of climbing Mount Kenya.
We thought, listen, let's come to Kenya and do something special, to raise money and to raise awareness for Space for Giants.
The Saracen players were in praise of the levels of rugby in the country.
Obviously, rugby across the world is growing, and none more so in Kenya with the Sevens, especially. Sevens are a world-renowned team.
Obviously, the Sevens is where they really made their mark in rugby, and they've got a relatively good chance of winning, I think, of winning a medal in the Olympics, which is going to be pretty special.
Sharma's Rugby Academy and Peponi School youngsters had the opportunity of learning from the giants from the Premiership.
And we think it's just a great spectacle of rugby, and some very famous and talented rugby players that just want to give a little bit back to the sport and to help encourage the future generation of international Kenyan stars.
I think it gives a chance for our children to actually experience at first hand what international sport actually looks like.
Saracens won the Aviva Premiership on the 28th of May after cruising past Exeter Chiefs. The teams crowned their season by also winning the Champions League trophy. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Well, that almost does it for us on Monday Night News. But we asked you if you think that Ole Kaparo's commission should be, in fact, be disbanded. Some of you who've taken time to talk to us on Twitter says it's just another money-minting commission, no impact at all since it was formed. That's Big Kips says on Twitter. There is no political goodwill and nothing will come out of this commission until otherwise. Ndungu says that. And Musau on Twitter says, as a country, we talk too much, love seldom, and hate too often. Nobody's scrutinizing the Kenyan budget, the biggest ever. Now we talk about MK and Babayao etc. diversions. That fellow calling himself Jobless Kenyan on Twitter. And finally here, Victor Okeo says, Kwani, it has not been disbanded. We are late. It should have been disbanded like yesterday. That does it for us on Monday Night News. Thank you very much for your company. My name is James Smart.